If you're going to be a wood carver, you expect two things, slivers and cuts. Enjoying pain helps too, by the way. My father was a socialist and a very argumentative one, and my mother was an artist and author and all this type of stuff. So I grew up arguing more than I did doing anything else. First thing I carved was a totem pole and nailed the wings on the back. It was one, with a Thunderbird had nailed on wings, little tacks. Yeah, just a kitchen paring knife, and I stabbed myself a few times with it because it was too dull and things of that nature. That's how you start. In grade 9, the history books had a lot of the old classic carvers, sculpting with marble and all this good stuff. And I couldn't get over how lifelike the faces and what have you were and how much emotion, etc. they had in it. And to be honest, that also held me back a lot, simply because I could not do it that well, and it never dawned on me that I was looking at masters. And I was comparing what I could do to what they were doing, and somehow it doesn't work. Like my very first carving set, my mother bought for Christmas, and tried to make one cut with it, and it bent. So it was so cheap that it was, you buy one good tool is a lot better than 20 very poor tools, first lesson. These are good for carving like the bottom of a chair or spoons or what have you. Ordinary knives, it's very awkward to get down and make a concave surface. And this is really good for smoothing. Better than sandpaper because you can keep a sharp edge without, sandpaper tends to round the edges off, and this won't. And this one is really good for doing lines and lineage. It's for your first cuts. This is good for a slicing type cut, where it slices this way because of the rounded blade. Yeah. But this shape is really important. When a knife cuts, it cuts in two ways. It slices through the wood or wedges its way through the wood. And wedging, you can't control it as easily as a slicing cut, and sometimes they split. So slicing cut it's much better. One of the best sets to get in actually is like a Warren, the replaceable blades, because you can get all the knife blades, you can get small chisels and small skews. But those would be the ones I would get. Learning how to look after your tools is important. If you don't look after your tools, they're not going to perform for you. The other thing is study. Look what other people do, what other artists do, especially the masters. For a carver, one of the sources of good information is the Egyptians. They carved in bright sunlight. They really knew how to handle it. And some of their carvings is gorgeous. So with a carver, one of the differences is he has to be concerned with shadow, while a painter is more concerned with light. It's a whole new way to learn, just to be able to pick the right type of wood. The stuff you get at most lumber yards isn't dry enough. It'll warp on you and crack, and usually when you don't want it to. It's hard to get thick pieces that fit what you want. And if you're getting it out of nature, which is most of the things I do, then you have to know how to cure it. The best place to dry it is like I've got a sub-basement, and the sub-basement is cool and it's dark, and it can sit there for years and it won't crack, but it slowly dries out. Then you look at the grain, and you look at how the grain goes, and sometimes the harder wood to carve is the most interesting because you've got whorls, and most people think things like a burl is hard to carve. It really isn't that hard. It's just that it won't split on you, and it doesn't crack and this type of thing. So in that sense, it's easy to carve. Yeah, well, if you take real close, this is a breast, and then torso, and hair. And it's a joie de vie is what the name of it. And the thing is, for me, when I carved it, the wood was so beautiful, I didn't want to carve into the hair part at all. And the idea is she dead, or are they having a good time? But most people don't see it. They have to study it before they actually see what the form's all about. The one thing for mankind is that they're always evolving, especially in the way they think and what they think. And that is changing very much. So it's the idea that that I've always tried to get is how to express an idea or an emotion or a concept that people can actually recognize. You've got to rely on your audience actually understanding what you're trying to say. And that, to me, is where the big difficulty is. And you've got to have enough mechanical skill to be able to do it. But you also have to have the techniques that you can explain and know when to break those techniques to get your ideas across. Yeah, there's high relief or bas relief, and there's low relief carvings. Which one do I prefer? Depends on what I'm doing. The challenge of a low relief carving is good. It also gives you an opportunity to put it on the wall. Now, I don't know if you noticed that one on the wall with the girl with the leaves all around her. The panel was less than 1/4 of an inch thick. So to get the depth, the feel of the depth, is you need to know perspective and you need to know shading, you need to know but it's a challenge to get it. Sometimes the shavings you're taking off is about the same thickness as a cigarette paper. I did a lot of drawing, a lot of sketch work. For me, it's like doing scales. The more you sketch, the better you get, and especially with carving, because you have to imagine you're carving in 3 dimensions, and you got to get it in your mind and how it all connects and what have you. First piece I remember selling. It wasn't until quite late. I was in probably my 40s, and I was up at Dawson at the time. I carved an old miner with this shovel in the dirt, and just under the shovel I put a little piece of gold. And the idea was that if he has to take that last shovelful and he'll make it. If he doesn't, he never will. In a lot of ways, I'm glad it did take me that long to learn. I can express myself a lot easier and a lot better now, just because it did take long. Success comes too early, and you sometimes ruin the success by getting it too early. The odd shows that I have been in, the meet and greet is no longer there. COVID showed up, and that's it. So, and that was the main thing, is you want to see how your audience is reacting to your work. And if you can't see that, you can't talk to them, you can't have, then the only thing you get out of it is a possible sale. And that's not exactly what I would show for. Because usually I have a show, they phone me up and say, how much for this carving? I say, well, this is how much I have to charge, and it's way out of their price range. You have to be in the right market, in the right place for it. There's no way you're going to sell a $10,000 carving here. You may sell one if you're lucky. You've got 2 ways. Either get you well known, which means you'd have to live in the city and do the schmoozing thing, and the other way is to get enough of your work out. Like it's hard to do prints off of carving, but you can do molding and what have you. I'm not really suited for that type of business. It's you've got to spend so much time doing that and not any time doing your artwork. So what are you going to do? To me, I think lifestyle is more important than anything else. So that's not my lifestyle, is chasing it. So I'd rather do what I want to do. And if people want to buy something, they can commission me, and I'll come up with their designs, and if they don't like the designs, I don't carve it. That's the beauty part about being able to work long enough that you don't have to worry about the dollars.